All right, let's get started. We're gonna get this we're gonna get this quarry truck down the hill here, and over there where the sand is, because we have no quarry over here.
Destroy all the white people who are teachers. Let all the black kids go, unless if I don't like you. The killer goes on, quote, being white sucks, but being black is so cool. Black people should rule, white people should fall. Every white person who lived and died, I hate you all. Joining me now is comedian and host of Prime Time with Alex Stein on
No, I'm not listening to that. Hold on.
Deeply disturbed.
No, I don't care about that. No, I don't care about that. Let's see, hold on. Oh, I knew what I wanted to listen to.
Why 30-year-olds love True Classic.
Not the ad, though.
True Classic teas are designed for regular guys.
Tonight, my name is Anthony.
Nah, say what?
As you already know. Alrighty, let's watch some of this, shall we?
Let me see if I can find
Swear to God, if I ever see
something
anybody
else.
with alligator out,
Nah.
March.
Nah. Bye. What is the other one I wanted to listen to? I think I just like silence. Let's just do some silence for a while. I've listened to a lot of this tonight. I just want some silence. Oh, I know what we could do. We can listen to the president. There we go. We'll do that.
Generating plants.
We'll go right to the beginning. This is pretty good.
Ladies and gentlemen,
All right.
President of the United States and First Lady Melania Trump.
All right, so we are going to get this guy over there so we can have a quarry. Got to get past this rock, but once we do, we should be good. Yeah. Come on, there's a pole there. Come on, last. Yeah, let's do it this way. Go this way. Okay. He's going to hit that rock pretty hard. Okay, he made it. He made it. All right, let's get him over here then. How do I get my camera? Oh, there it is. Okay. There we go. Now we got the trailer in. That's a big trailer. Big trailer. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Alright, let's get across that bridge.
Ladies and gentlemen, Master Gunnery Sergeant Kevin Veneer, accompanied by the President's own United States Marine Band, will now honor America with the singing of our national anthem, followed by a flyover consisting of a B-2 Spirit bomber from Whiteman Air Force Base, escorted by 2 F-35 fighters, in honor of all our military personnel who participated
over there?
in Operation Midnight Hammer.
I'll have to go check out that castle. Look at that castle, guys. Don't you go off that bridge. Oh, yeah, that castle looks cool. I didn't even know that was there. We definitely have to work our way over there. Where am I going? I'm going this way? Yep. Let's see, I gotta put him in the middle. Let me try to get over here as much as I can. Ooh, almost didn't make that one. Till I'm still on the road. Hit it hard. Hit it hard. There we go. Now, will he be able to get through here? Let's see. Hitting the pole here. Oh, yeah. Come on. You're doing it. You're doing it. Keep on going. Don't stop. There we go. He's got some traction. We're knocking rocks out of the way and everything. Boy, that is going crazy. Why is it so crazy? I'll get closer. Maybe it'll keep it from stuttering so much. Oh, where am I at? Okay. Let's keep going over here. Yeah, this is where I want to be, is right here. I probably could set him up right here and be just fine. Let's see, let's back him in here so he's out of the way. Yeah, why can't he just, like, go right here? That would be, he'd be off the road and he'd fit really well right there. And it's full of sand, so I don't see why there'd be a problem. I mean, he's gonna be in the middle of the road, but...
President of the United States and First Lady Melania Trump.
Yeah, that's really close to the sand quarry right there. Maybe I should try to put him right here.
Well, thank you.
That'd be
very
even
much.
better.
That is
Oh, there's the
some
president.
sight, especially after what happened just a week ago. When you look at that big, beautiful plane, and the other ones were something. It was an incredible mission, and I think I can say very proudly, and I don't have to quote the polls, that our country is more proud right now than it's been in many, many years. We have pride, we have dignity, we have something that's happened miraculously so fast. You know that our
Let's
military
try doing
now
it
is
right
the most
here.
sought after job there's ever
That
been.
work?
Serving in our military 1 year ago.
There it
people
is.
want to join our military.
And it shouldn't be out in the road too much. It should be just enough.
They didn't want to join anything to do with our country. And now,
Alright, done.
as you probably know, the
How about
enlistment
that?
is at an all-time record. We're packed. We're full.
We got this road,
And I just think that's so important.
and we
because,
got this
That
road.
was so sad 1 year ago when I heard those statistics.
So let's
And
get
a
it
different
done.
president, but nobody wanted to join. And
We'll
now,
bring our dump trucks over
we're
there
at a
and
record, and I will
go
say
from there.
that I just left NATO, where we had a tremendous experience. They've agreed to put up over $1 trillion a year. They went from less than 2% to 5%, and nobody thought that was possible. And they told me very strongly, the leaders of the big part of the world, respected people all, they told me that, 1 year ago your country was dead. And now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. So that's the way it is,
All right,
and
let's
that's
go.
the way we like it. And it's only going to get hotter. I promise you that. After that spectacular display of American power, let me just say that God bless the United States military, and God bless the USA. God bless the USA. And to all Americans, I want to wish you a very happy Independence Day, happy 4th of July. This is going to be something special. This spirit in this country, we haven't seen anything like it in many, many years and decades. Let me also express our gratitude to our magnificent First Ladies. You worked very hard to make this all work. We have a fireworks
Looks pretty
display
happy.
about 9 o'clock tonight. I hope you're all going to be around and watch it. I know our congressmen and our senators who are standing right here, so many of them, they did such a great job. They're going to be here. I guarantee you, they're not leaving. They're not leaving. Thanks as well to the National Park Service, the USO.
Yeah, I want to
Captain's
definitely
Friends,
check
and
that out over
distinguished
there.
guests. We have so many people in
Once
the
we get this
audience,
road done,
we
we'll
have so
check it
much
out.
to do with the success
I
of
got to
our
get some
country.
power set up
I
too.
think had probably the most successful
We got
almost
most
6 months
infrastructure set up.
as a president,
At least over
the
here.
presidency, I think they're saying it was the best 6 months, and I know for a fact they're saying the last 2 weeks there has never been anything like it as far as winning. So as you know, 2 weeks ago, our incredible Air Force pilots conducted one of the most successful military strikes in all of history. Operation Midnight Hammer, and that's exactly what it was. It was a hammer.
We gotta get rid of that rock.
This evening,
It's
we're
gonna
honored
cause
to
some
be
problems.
joined by 150 airmen and their families from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, home of the B-2 bomber. And we've kept them a little
If I can
bit
move
on
him
guard.
with my
Kept them a
tires.
little bit, let's be a little bit quiet about it. But if you want to raise your hand very quickly, raise your hand, because you people are just incredible. They don't want to be in disguise, you know. They say, we don't have to do that. They're looking at us like we're a bunch of babies. We don't have to be in disguise. We saw all those hands go up. Thank you very much. We owe you everything. Great job. Incredible. Just flawless. One of the most flawless military campaigns in the history of our country. If you remember years ago, they had helicopters crashing into each other. It was a disaster. The hostages in Iran.
All right, let's get
Just
started.
the opposite. We didn't have any crashes. We didn't lose any planes. We didn't lose anybody. Those beautiful planes that you saw were totally stealth. They flew right over the center of a very hostile country.
All right, he
And they
should
never
be
even saw it coming.
knocking sand.
And then they said skedaddle.
Let's
They
see
dropped
how
the
much he's
bombs,
got.
They said skedaddle. And that big sucker turned over like this on its side and it got out of there. I'll tell you what, how they do that, they can do it. I asked our great General Kane, how do they do that? Do they really love doing that? Look at them, they're all laughing. And they said, do they really like doing it, sir? They can't wait.
I want to cancel
Better
it.
you than me. That's all I
What's he
can
gonna
say.
do? Drive to the end?
It's a flawless mission. Every single bomb
That's
hit,
what it looks like.
and it was total obliteration. Total obliteration.
There, cancel the road.
But they had no choice. That was an incredible thing. These heroic pilots showed our enemies
Yeah, we gotta
what it
fix
means
that.
to fly, fight, and win. To every service member who supported that mission, and we have many of them here. We've made you very, really, we've made you proud by supporting, but you've made us even prouder by having the courage to get in those gorgeous machines and fly through the roughest airspace anywhere in the world. And we salute you, and we honor you. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. And we're also honored and delighted to be joined by hundreds of service members and military families. Those families are the best we have. From all across the U.S. Armed Forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force. I love the Space Force. You know why? We're the ones that did it. It turned out to be a very valuable force, actually. The Coast Guard and the Marines are incredible people. On behalf of our entire nation, this 4th of July, we thank you for keeping America safe, strong,
All right, here we go.
sovereign, and free. Thank you very much for being here. Great honor. And stick around for the fireworks. And our country's had so much to celebrate this Independence Day as we enter our 249th year.
Are you serious? I gotta be all the way back here to do
Winning like
auto?
never before. We're not,
You gotta
I'll
be
tell you, we're in
kidding
a
me.
category now that's,
That's just
where we wanted
dumb.
to be for a long time. We suffered with 4 horrible years of embarrassment.
No, I don't want that.
Afghanistan may be the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. We're never going to let a thing
There
like
we
that
go.
happen again.
Now we just have to.
Trillions of dollars are pouring into the United States for
Yeah,
investment
I guess that's what we're
purposes.
gonna have to do. That is
Almost
annoying as crap.
$15 trillion has never been anything. There's never been anything
We'll just
even
come
close.
from this end,
The
I
stock
guess.
market's at an all-time
Shoot.
high. Jobs are
Hey,
at an
wait, that
all-time
sand
high.
moved that dang rock out of the way.
Everything's at an all-time high, and we're gonna
That's a
keep
good
it that
thing.
way. We're the greatest country in the world, and we're back. We're back like nobody thought possible this quickly. I thought it would take maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe even 3. And we did it in less than 6 months. We are back and strong.
See if we can move him over and knock him off the hill. That'd be cool if we can knock him off the hill. I don't think it's gonna happen. There we go.
They didn't spend any money. They didn't spend anything.
All right,
A few
let's
moments,
go.
we're going to make history, the
Let's
greatest
go over
victory
here
yet,
and start it
when
over
I
here.
signed the one big, beautiful bill. And before I start, I want to tell you that I've never seen people so happy in our country because of that.
It's
Because
true.
so many different groups of people are being taken care of, the military, civilians of all types, jobs of all types. We're adding things like the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, child tax credits. So many things are being added that we wouldn't even have
Okay,
time to discuss.
so now I should be able to at least
when we
get
were
some of
doing
it.
John Thune and
Yeah,
Mike Johnson
it's not
right
gonna.
there. I said,
It's gonna
"Mike,
not
what a
gonna
job
do the
they've
whole thing. I
done.
should have just
What a
brought the
job
bigger
they've
dump
done."
truck. Let's just do that.
But you know,
No,
it was supposed to
no,
be in 3,
no,
4, 5,
no,
6, or 7 different
no.
bills. And I was on
Oh
one
my
of the
God.
fake news shows, and I said, "Let's do
I
it in
want to
one
cancel.
beautiful, big,
It's
one
not gonna let
beautiful.
me
We want
cancel.
one
Okay, there it
big,
is. Cancel that
beautiful bill."
sucker.
I said
All right,
that
let's
to
go get
this
the big one.
newscaster, and I think a lot of the congressmen and senators were watching, and they said, "Let's name the bill that, the one big, beautiful bill," and that's what we did. And what we've done is put everything into one bill. It's never happened before. It's the biggest bill of its type in history. We've never had anything like that before. Nothing like that. They
Oh,
thought
he's
would be
stuck on
possible to get
something.
passed. And actually, I liked it because we had so much in there that no matter who you are, there was something in that bill that would make your congressman or your senator or your congresswoman, much more importantly, raise their hand and support. Right, Lisa? So it was something. It was really something special. So the American people gave us a historic mandate in November. We won everything. We won the swing states, all 7 swing states. We won every one. That rarely happens. We won the popular vote. We won the districts, 2,750 to 505. That's why when you look at a map, it's all red.
Wait, there's another road over here? Wait a
It's all red.
second.
And by the way, red means Republican, just in case. But we made promises, and it's really promises made, promises kept, and we've kept them.
Okay, so I'm
This
on
is
my
a
way
triumph
right now.
of democracy, or the birthday of democracy, and I have to say that the people are happy. They're happy. And I listened to a broadcast, and I read a couple of articles. They have the Democrats, they should have voted for it. They didn't vote for tax cuts. They didn't vote for taking care of people. They didn't vote, not one vote. And we knew that because their hatred of either the country or me or both is so great. They didn't vote at all, and it's terrible. But I just have to say, they have a routine. It's terrible, they say. Terrible, terrible. You saw that guy standing up for hours yesterday. He didn't know what he was even doing there. I said, what's he sitting down? He had a towel. He's wiping his face. That's not too elegant. What is he? I said, what is he doing for so long? And he couldn't criticize the bill. He was criticizing everyone else and everything else. So they've developed, and this is according to the news media, they've developed a standard line, and we can't let them get away with it. Oh, it's dangerous. Oh, everybody's going to die. It's actually just the opposite. Everybody's going to live.
Everybody's going to
Just the
die.
opposite. And I just want you to know, if you see anything negative put out by Democrats, it's all a con job. And they said, and they compared it to just like the con job of Russia, 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 and all of the other things they did. The 51 intelligence agent said the laptop from hell, it came from Russia, they said.
You know what? I think I want to buy a new one of these. Let's buy a new one of these. I'm just curious to see how good it works.
So we just have to look forward, fellas. Look forward and just say what it is, because it's the most popular bill ever signed in the history of our country. Whether you're military or anybody else, this is the most popular bill ever signed. And it includes the largest tax cut in American history, the largest spending cut, $1.7 trillion. And yet you won't even notice it. Just waste, fraud, and abuse in American history. So you have the biggest tax cut, the biggest spending cut, the largest border security investment in American history. We want to have strong borders. And the only thing is, we want to have great elections, too. You need strong borders and elections. And my people have promised me that we're going to go into elections and we're going to make sure they're not rigged. that they're not
40
sullied.
tons.
We're going to make sure that the elections are going to be fair. You need two things. You need strong borders and you need fair
50
elections.
meters.
And
40
we're gonna make
tons.
sure
50
on the
meters.
elections also, and our armed forces are one of the most vital military modernizations of all time. It will take place. So we rebuilt our military in our first term, and now we're going to modernize and remodernize our military, including building a great golden dome all over our land so that if they get nasty with us, it's going to be knocked down. It's going to make
So
any
20
of the golden
tons
domes, they call them the Iron
and
Dome,
35
we're going
meters.
across the Golden Dome, because we did the Iron Domes, and we do sort of everything, if you want to know the truth, but this blows it away. We're going to keep you safe. I want to thank
Oh,
every member
wow.
of the
So this
House and
is a
Senate
better
who worked
truck.
to get this bill
It just has a
on my
stupid
desk,
bug.
and many
That's
of them
all.
are here, and I'm not going to
That's
mention
fine.
all their names because we'll be standing here, but I have
We're
to
going to do
mention a
it.
few.
I
And
think it's
especially
pretty
I want to
cool.
thank Vice President J.D.
First, I was
Vance,
really
who's
mad about
been
it, but I actually
fantastic.
like it.
Secretary of State
And you know how
Marco
I
Rubio
hate
has been
articulated
incredible.
vehicles. I absolutely hate them.
We
But
have somebody that is, it was a passion.
this one,
I think he actually loved it. It wasn't
we're
easy,
just
but
going
he
to
loved
see
it.
what it can do.
Speaker of the House,
Gonna
Michael
not
Johnson, who's right
look.
here.
See the dials work and
Speaker,
everything.
thank you
That's
very
cool.
much.
We're gonna make a big old mess of
He worked
sand
so
here.
close to the Senate Majority
Big
Leader
old
John
mess of
Lewis,
sand.
who's a fantastic guy. And those two are deep, and it's not going to be beaten.
Got quite a
You look at
storm
them, you
going
look at
on
their
over here too.
counterparts on the other side. It's not even close. I want to thank both of you people for doing an incredible
Let me
job.
see
Thank you
how
very
this.
much, John. Mike.
Wait. Yeah.
House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, a brave man. Steve, you know, he suffered a tragedy a number of years ago. I was at his hospital bedside that night with Melania, with our First Lady, and he had no chance. The doctor said he has very little chance. And you look better today than you did then. You didn't look particularly good that night, I will say. But I learned one thing, his beautiful wife loved him. She was a disaster, right? I told him, I said, Steve, I can only tell you one thing. I was with your family and I was with your wife, and your wife was devastated. She loves you. I've seen a lot of wives that, you know, they don't seem to be so concerned in those situations. And that's the kind of wife you don't want. But you have a great, beautiful wife who was really there, and you really have done. You're a very brave guy, and Mike and John, everybody standing with you knows it. Thank you very much.
Sounds like a good wife to look for.
Majority Whip, this is a guy who is great. When I have a problem, I call him up and he gets it done. He's a tough cookie. I don't know why he's not the governor of Minnesota. He comes from Minnesota. He's like, well, look, he goes, no, I don't want to run for governor. You know, come to think of it, I think that's a good idea. You would win so easily. The guy is terrible. You would win. You just have to take a look at that handsome face of yours, and you'd win Tom Ever, everybody. He did a great job. I think you should consider that job, although we don't want to lose him, do we? We don't want to. Let's say we are. I think say we are. What a job you did. And Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso, who's incredible. Senate Finance Chairman.
It's not too slow. I mean,
What a job.
he's a little faster than the green one.
Jason, they really know their stuff. Senate Budget Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham. What a good man he is. I see a poll. He's running, and I see a poll. He's 24 points up. That's not bad, Lindsey. That's not bad. 24 points up. Great state
This
of
truck
South
is really
Carolina.
great for
House Ways and
automated
Means Chairman
roads
Jason Smith. What a job.
because it
Thank you,
just
Jason.
has unlimited sand
Thank you.
capacity.
These are great patriots.
40
I have
tons is quite a lot of
House Budget
sand.
Committee Chairman Jody Arrington. Jody, thank you very much. Jody has been good right from the beginning, and so many others, and they're all here, and they fully understand. Probably they'll never speak to me again, but that's okay. It is what it is. But I just want to thank everybody. A lot of senators here, a lot of congressmen and women here. Lisa, thank you very much, by the way. I have to thank you. Thank you very much. You've been fantastic. So this bill will fuel massive economic growth and lift up the hardworking citizens who make this country run. The factory workers, farmers, mechanics, waiters, waitresses, police officers, firefighters, coal miners, callers back. Beautiful. I said you can't use the word coal unless you precede it by saying clean, beautiful coal. But, you know, China's right now building 68 coal generating plants, and we're putting up wind. Does it work? I'll tell you. Aside from polluting
so we're gonna go around this little thing and we'll start. Actually, you know what? Yeah, let's get to the other side. And be smart. Get to the other side.
I see that, they make about 95% of them, the wind turbines. I have never seen a wind farm in China. Why is that? Somebody check that out. Tom Emmer, will you please check that out? But all the coal miners we love and the truck drivers in this act, we have officially made the Trump tax cuts permanent. That's the largest tax cut in the history of our country, added to substantial other cuts, which is going to, you're going to see like a rocket ship. We're setting all sorts of economic records right now, and that's before this kicks in. After this kicks in, our country is going to be a rocket ship economically.
We'll just do that, and we'll go and get that flattened. Let's get that flattened right now.
And that's why when you hear things like that, this is the most it's the biggest bill of its kind ever done by far. But we are going to have a situation, we are going to have something where people are going to realize the level of success and popularity of this bill. And sort of to close it out, it makes the child tax credit permanent for 40 million American families. And to increase the car affordability, it makes interest on a new car payment. So this had never happened before. You buy a car, you borrow money, you're allowed to deduct for income tax purposes your payment of interest, you're allowed to deduct it. It's never happened before. So run out and buy a car. But I have to tell you, it's only good, Mike, if it's made in America. If it's made in another country, you don't get it. But to protect 2 million family farms and other small businesses, we're eliminating the estate tax or the death tax. So if you want to leave your small business, but the farms are really, they have been devastated to your children, if you love your children. By the way, if you don't love your children, don't even listen to what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. But if you love, yes, I think you love your child. This one loves Barron. So, I don't know if we're a small business or not. I'm not sure that we qualify. I'm sorry, darling. But it was devastating. Farmers had to go out and borrow money. And by the way, is that Pam Bondi? Pam Bondi, raise your hand. Thank you, Pam, for being here. Attorney General. She's done an incredible
Blondie's
job.
there.
So there won't be any, think of this, there won't be any death tax. You're not going to have to go borrow money. Your parents pass away and the farm goes into the bank's hands and gets foreclosed. That's not going to happen. And with 100% expensing for new investments, we're cutting taxes for every manufacturer who builds, expands, and we have expansion.
Next time I'm just going to take the semi, because this tractor is really hard to drive in marching. It's just not fun to drive.
Our country at levels that we've never seen. And to conclude, not only will we have the strongest economy on earth, we're also going to have the strongest borders on earth. And last month, did you see the number? 0 people crossed our border. 0 illegal people. And that's after Joe Biden let 21 million people, many of them people from gangs and prisons and drug lords and people that were mentally unbalanced. They let them into our country. We're getting them out at record numbers, and we have an obligation
Whoa.
to when we're doing it. So as we approach the 250th anniversary of America's founding, exactly 1 year from now, we're creating an economy that delivers wealth for the middle class, a border that is sovereign and secure, and a military that is unmatched, unequaled anywhere in the world.
Let's see what. Whoa!
What a beautiful sight that
Oh
was.
my.
Watching what they did. Just
Yeah, we're gonna have to take the trailer. That's all there is to it. Let's get the trailer.
It's going to be a period of time, the likes of which I don't think this country has ever experienced before.
Where is the
We're gonna make
trailer?
America great
Oh.
again, and it's happening very fast. We love you. We thank you for being here. Enjoy the fireworks tonight.
There it
And
is.
First Lady, I want to thank you. You have been unbelievable. You think it's easy being First Lady? Thank you all very much. Happy 4th of July. God bless you all. Thank you very much, everybody.
Now I hear this, but I really wanted to see him sign the bill. So that's what we're gonna watch. We're gonna watch him sign the bill.
Sign the bill.
Yeah, just like you said. We'll go ahead and move this. There we go. All right, and then we're going to get the paver as well. Ability 2 for that paver. It's the same. Not quite sure why. It's better, but it's wider, I know that. We might need a push. We're gonna see how it goes. Come on. You're gonna have to make a run for it, looks like. Come on. Let's back up. Alright, let's see if we can... Nope. It's not gonna happen. Let's do it again. Oh wow, he made it. Okay. I'll try to pull him straight up. That looks like that's gonna work. Once you get past all the ass kissing, then we can actually get to the real thing.
Thank you very much, everybody, and I want to thank the people of Newton.
We know how the president doesn't like ass kissing. Come on, get up there. Why are we having trouble getting this on here? You see, I don't have any trouble getting this on here. Alright, let's try it again. Right now, there's something else I wanted to see.
Thank you very much, everybody.
It wasn't that. I wanted to see something else. What was I looking for? Okay. Let's look for my... There it is. Let's get up there. That ain't gonna work. I'm gonna have to put him on first. That's all there is to it. And that's fine. We will. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Get him out of here. Alright. No, I don't want you. Alright, let's try this. Get on that trailer. There we go. That should work a little bit. He's a little bit on the things. There we go. Can we roll there? Alright, that's good. And we'll put that down a little bit. Not quite like that. More like that. There we go. We'll rest it on there. Hopefully it won't be moving it around too much. And let's get him on. I don't think I'll be able to change that gearing. I'm going to try to back up in here and get out of this blue. Let's see if that helps. You may not be able to get out of here though, if I do. Okay. There we go, there it is. Let's go. It worked. Come on. Go straight. There we go. What on earth? We didn't have problems with this before. I don't know why we're having problems with it now. Can we at least put the roller on there? I mean, come on. Let's see if we can at least get the roller on there. Okay. I think we can at least fit the roller on there. Please don't do dumb things like that. That'll probably do right there. Alright, we're out of here. Enough of this. Part of me wonders if there's an easier, better way to go. Can I go down here? I mean, it looks a little rough. Yeah, let's do what we've been doing. Looks a little rough. Can't do it. Can't do it. Let's try to back up. Can we back up? No, we can't with that stupidity. Back up. Why is this a thing? We should be able to break this spot right here. Hopefully. No, we can't. Alright, let's try and back it up like this. Come on. There we go. Come on. We don't need to be dumb. We just need to back up. That's all. We're just backing up. Okay. Yeah, there's nothing there to make the trailer do that. Just a fake rock. That's about it. Alright, there we go. Now I should be able to. Whatever. You just stay there. Has he flipped over too? Stop it. Yeah, forget that. I'm not doing that. I'm not wasting my time anymore. No, let me see if this truck can handle him. Let's see. I don't think it can, but I'm gonna try it, and I'm also gonna turn the air. Okay. He actually can fit on here. Okay. It's gonna make it a little top heavy though. Let's try to go. Let's go down with it. No, not exactly like that. Something like that. You gotta be able to at least be able to see. But that is really weird. That is definitely not what's going on here. Set them up all the way. Oh, that's weird. Okay, fine. We'll go all the way to the hood then. Okay. I think that works then. Alright. Oh. That's why. That's just really weird. Okay. Let's see. Okay, now I see what I did wrong. Something like that. No. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, that should do it. Let's go. See how well he holds on. And these tires are on there for the most part, so. I mean, he is a little heavy, but he seems to be staying on okay for the most part. No, we're not doing that. We just did that. We're not doing that again. Mm-mm. Whatever. Whatever. I don't even care anymore. Let's just get this done. Had it. Okay, let's see. We get to get past this ad, and then I want to listen to the narcissist talk again. 'Cause it's pretty good.
Harming and, quite frankly, destabilizing things you can do to a narcissist is respond with calm detachment instead of emotion. This isn't just about being quiet or reserved or polite. It's about reclaiming your autonomy in a way that bypasses their entire psychological framework. Because make no mistake, narcissists don't just thrive on admiration or validation. They thrive on reaction, on knowing they can provoke you, on watching you twist yourself into emotional knots trying to make sense of what just happened. That's the game. That's the currency. And when you stop spending it, the whole economy of the dynamic starts to collapse. You have to understand how fundamental emotional reaction is to the narcissist's model of reality. It tells them they exist. It reinforces their sense of power when they can make you angry, make you cry, make you doubt yourself. What they're seeing in their mind is a reflection of their own significance. I must matter, they think, because look at how much I can affect them. Your emotions become their proof, not of love, not of connection, but of dominance. So when you shift away from reactivity, when you begin to meet provocation with calm, manipulation with neutrality, emotionally with a kind of grounded clarity, it scrambles their operating system. It's not that they don't expect conflict. In fact, they do. They often provoke it intentionally. But what they expect is charged conflict. Something messy, something emotional, something they can twist, escalate, and use as leverage. What they don't know what to do with is a calm presence that refuses to take the bait. And this isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about transcending and learning to observe what they're doing without becoming part of a script. Because every narcissist writes a story in which they are either the hero or the victim, and everyone around them is cast in a role. When you're emotional, they know how to place you. You're overreacting, they'll say. You're crazy. You're unstable. But when you're calm, deliberate, steady, unfazed, the narrative becomes harder to write. They lose their frame of reference, and that, to someone who survives by controlling perception, is intolerable. Now, some people mistake detachment for cruelty, especially if they've been conditioned to believe that emotional availability means care. But calm detachment isn't coldness. It's clarity. It's refusing to let someone else's chaos dictate your internal state. And in the context of narcissistic abuse, it's a radical act of psychological self-preservation. Because if you allow yourself to get pulled into their emotional storms, you'll spend your life reacting to projections, defending yourself against accusations that were never based in reality to begin with. This is where the philosophical element becomes important, because at its root, narcissistic conflict is not a battle between two people. It's a battle between truth and illusion. The narcissist constructs a false self to survive. An identity built on appearance, on control, on denial of vulnerability. Your calm detachment doesn't just frustrate them, it exposes them. It reveals, without words, that they don't control the terms of engagement. That they are not the author of your emotional experience.
Stupid vehicle.
The moment you realize that, the moment you internalize it, not as a strategy, but as a truth, you begin to move beyond the need to convince or correct or retaliate.
If I could drive it this way, can you drive it backwards? Oh, it just does a stupid beep. Yeah, no one wants to hear that beep.
Emotionally, spiritually, you stop investing your energy in trying to be understood by someone who is committed to misunderstanding you for the sake of maintaining their own fiction. And in doing so, you create something that narcissists cannot tolerate: emotional sovereignty. You're no longer a mirror. You're no longer a pawn. You're a person self-regulated, composed, aware, and that terrifies them. Because in that moment, you cease to be their supply. You cease to be a character in their story. And for someone who depends on others to reflect back a sense of self, that kind of independence feels like annihilation. So, if you're wondering what not being nice to a narcissist really looks like, That's deeply unsettling to someone who has made a life out of controlling other people's emotional responses. Because when a narcissist can't pull you back into explanation, they can't insert themselves into your decision making, they can't chip away at your resolve, and without that access, their influence begins to die. Let's be honest, for a lot of people, especially those who live through prolonged emotional manipulation, saying no without explanation can feel like a betrayal of your own kindness. You might feel that not offering a reason is cold or inconsiderate or harsh.
Might be.
But here's the philosophical distinction. Kindness is not the same as submission. Respecting others does not require you to sacrifice your own boundaries on the altar of harmony. In fact, real respect toward others and toward yourself depends on clear limits. And when you begin to act from that clarity, not only do you protect yourself, but you model something powerful. That your worth isn't contingent on being understood by everyone, least of all those committed to misunderstanding you. Here's the deeper layer. Narcissists often demand explanations because they don't actually want information, they want influence. They're not listening to understand, they're listening to find an angle. When you justify a boundary, you inadvertently reopen negotiation. You hand them the tools to undermine the very line you just drew. What's worse, it trains them to believe that your limits are flexible, negotiable, or conditional on their approval. But when you refuse to explain, when you simply state a boundary and move on, you introduce something new into the dynamic, finality. And finality to a narcissist is like an existential cliff, because they can't manipulate what's not in motion. They can't destabilize a door that's already closed. And that's precisely why they'll test you even harder in these moments. They'll escalate, they'll accuse, they'll bait you into over-explaining again. Why? Because they know if they can get you back into that cycle, if they can get you defending your boundary instead of standing on it, they regain control. That's why your calm refusal to explain isn't just an act of resistance, it's an act of authority. Not over them, but over yourself. It signals that your inner compass is intact. That you don't need their permission to make choices. And that's one of the most psychologically unsettling things a narcissist can encounter. A person who doesn't depend on them emotionally, who isn't afraid to walk away, and who doesn't owe them a performance. In the broader philosophical sense, this is about individuation, becoming someone whose identity is rooted in something deeper than other people's approval. It's about developing the internal structure required to say no without collapse, to disappoint someone without crumbling, to assert yourself without guilt. That's maturity. And it's rare, because it requires you to value truth over comfort, clarity over consensus, freedom over appeasement. So the next time a narcissist demands to know why you're setting a boundary, why you've changed, why you're being so difficult, remember this: you don't owe an explanation to someone who's only asking so they can dismantle your answer. It's a subtle trap embedded in many relationships with narcissists, one that's especially dangerous for people who are naturally empathetic, responsible, or inclined toward healing. And it's this: you're taught, often implicitly, to play the hero in their story, to fix what's broken, to soothe their emotional wounds, to hold the emotional burden of two people. Over time, this dynamic becomes so familiar, so deeply ingrained, that stepping out of it feels like betrayal. The longer you stay in that role, the more invisible you become, and the more dependent they become on you doing the work they refuse to do themselves. Now think about that. The narcissist presents themselves, either overtly or subtly, as someone who's wounded, misunderstood, or perpetually mistreated by others. It's a compelling narrative, and if you have a strong sense of empathy, you're drawn in. You want to help. You believe that with enough love, enough support, enough patience, they'll heal. You'll be the one who finally sees them, finally gets through, and for a time that illusion may hold. But it's an illusion. Because in a narcissistic dynamic, your efforts aren't met with growth, they're met with entitlement. The more you give, the more they expect. The more you sacrifice, the less they respect you. And what began as compassion slowly turns into servitude. Not in the obvious traditional sense, but in the psychological one. Your emotional labor becomes the glue holding their fragile emotion together. And if you ever stop, if you step back, reclaim your needs, assert your limits, they don't thank you for everything you've done. They turn on you. Why? Because you've disrupted the script. And that's the key to understanding why the narcissist hates when you stop playing the hero. It's not just that they miss your help. It's that your refusal to rescue them threatens their entire worldview. If you're no longer solving their problems, absorbing their pain, or validating their illusions, they're left with the one thing they can't handle: themselves, their choices, their emptiness, their accountability. That kind of confrontation is terrifying to them, because a narcissist doesn't build relationships based on mutual growth. They build them around emotional dependency. And you, in your role as the rescuer, the empath, the fixer, you weren't just part of the story, you were the foundation. The emotional scaffold propping up a self-image they couldn't maintain alone. So when you walk away from that, or simply stop playing your role, it's not just rejection, it's collapse. And this is where things often turn ugly. They may accuse you of being selfish, of abandoning them, of not being who you used to be. They'll weaponize your empathy and try to guilt you into re-engaging, into picking up their pieces one
Boy,
more
that's a
time.
heavy vehicle. I
But
don't
now
know.
you can see the pattern. You can see that every time you stepped in to carry their emotional burden,
I can't
you
even, like,
made it easier
shut
for
the
them
gate
to
with
avoid
this thing
growth.
on
You
here.
weren't helping them evolve, you were protecting them from the consequences of their own behavior. And here's the philosophical crux of it. Helping
I
someone
will
avoid
try.
the consequences of their actions is not compassion. It's collusion. It's enabling. It's saying, whether you mean to or not, I'll pay the price for your choices.
Oh, crap.
And if you keep doing that long enough, it becomes your identity, not because it's who you are, but because it's what the dynamic demands. But once you stop, once you relinquish that role and stop being nice in the way they've come to expect, they experience a kind of emotional disorientation, because they don't know who they are without someone else carrying their mess. And while that might look like a crisis, it's actually a necessary moment, not for you, but for them. Because it's the first time they're forced to face the emptiness they've been covering with your effort. That's what makes this shift so powerful and so threatening to them. Your refusal to keep rescuing them isn't an act of cruelty, it's an act of clarity. You stop serving the illusion, and in doing so, you've reclaimed your personhood, your energy, your freedom. One of the most psychologically revealing moments in the unraveling of a narcissistic dynamic is when you stop reacting to their silence, their games, their passive aggression, and you let it all fall flat. This is not just an act of defiance, it is a shift in the emotional contract. Because when you cease to validate their tactics with your attention, they are no longer able to sustain the illusion of control. You have to understand something fundamental about narcissistic psychology. They rely not only on what they say, but on how you respond to what they don't say. The silence, the sudden withdrawal, the cold shoulder. These aren't signs of reflection or emotional maturity. They're calculated, manipulative acts designed to provoke anxiety, guilt, and re-engagement from you. This is not the silence of someone introspecting. It is the silence of someone punishing. And they expect you to interpret it exactly that way. Now, in most human relationships, silence can serve a functional purpose. Time to process, space to cool off, a pause to consider. But for the narcissist, silence is a weapon. It's an assertion of dominance, a non-verbal declaration. You need me more than I need you. And I can withhold myself until you beg to reconnect. It's the psychological equivalent of holding the relationship hostage. So what happens when you stop responding? When you don't ask what's wrong, don't chase, don't try to fix or explain or smooth things over? What happens when you greet the silence not with fear, but with indifference? Their strategy fails, not just practically, but existentially. Because it's not about the silence itself, it's about the reaction it's supposed to generate. Without your emotional energy feeding the dynamic, their sense of superiority begins to falter. And that's crucial, because it reveals just how fragile the narcissist's sense of control really is. They act like they hold all the power, but that power only exists through your participation. Remove scaffolding collapses. The game ends. Not because you won an argument, but because you refuse to keep playing. This, ironically, is when they start escalating. They might break the silence with a sudden outburst, or a guilt-laced message, or even a plea for sympathy. But notice the pattern. The moment your disengagement threatens their narrative, they rush to reassert it. That's not strength, that's desperation. You've become unpredictable. You've interrupted the cycle. From a deeper psychological lens, what's happening here is more than just the breakdown of manipulation. It's the reconfiguration of identity. Because when you no longer take the bait, you begin to see the narcissist for what they are. Not an enigma, not a puzzle to solve, but a person using emotional tactics to avoid accountability. That realization is sobering and liberating. It also demands maturity. Because it's tempting in these moments to retaliate, to point out the manipulation, to call it what it is. But real freedom doesn't come from confronting the narcissist.
Oh.
It comes from not needing to, from realizing that your peace is not contingent on their acknowledgement of truth. That's a hard-earned psychological boundary, one that marks the transition from enmeshment to sovereignty. You're no longer living in reaction to them, you're living in alignment with yourself. So when their silence arrives, as it inevitably will, let it arrive. Let it echo into a space where you no longer need to explain your worth, defend your integrity, or apologize for having needs. Let it hang unanswered. Let it expose its own emptiness. Because here's the paradox. The moment you stop reacting to their silence, they finally hear something they can't control. Your absence. Not just physical absence, but emotional, spiritual, and psychological absence. And for someone who survives on attention, that absence is deafening.
Mashed potatoes or roasted potatoes for better aging. Does the way it's cooked make a difference? Actually, it makes a big difference. Cooking a potato.
Bye. Oh. Okay.
Fusion they create. Narcissists are masters of manipulation, twisting words, distorting reality, and making you question your own perceptions. You may find yourself doubting things you
That's
once
not the
knew to be
one I wanted to watch. Okay, let's go.
There's a peculiar moment in the unraveling of a narcissistic dynamic, a moment that can easily be mistaken for progress if you're not careful. It's when the narcissist starts using your language. They begin to speak in terms of boundaries, growth, healing, accountability. And at first glance, it seems like they've turned a corner. After all the chaos, the gaslighting, the erosion of your identity, here they are, suddenly echoing the very things you spent months, sometimes years, trying to explain. And if you're not anchored deeply in your own clarity, this can be disorienting, because it sounds like they've changed. They haven't. What's happened is more subtle and far more manipulative. They've realized they've lost their grip, that the emotional machinery they relied on to extract attention, validation, and control has stopped working. They've lost access to your emotional energy, and that realization triggers not repentance but strategy. When old tactics fail, narcissists don't usually retreat, they adapt. What they're doing in that moment is a form of psychological mimicry. Like a chameleon shifting color to survive in a new environment, they begin to echo the language that has allowed you to
Boy, does that
transcend
sound familiar.
Not because they understand it, but because they've observed that it works. They've seen that your stability, your vocabulary, your philosophy of healing gives you power. And so, in an effort to regain relevance, they co-opt it. They may talk about doing the work, mention inner child wounds, or even quote therapy jargon you once used with them. But it's hollow, it's performative, there's no depth behind the words, only the intent to reopen the door you finally closed. This is important to understand from a psychological perspective. Narcissists are not driven by truth, they're driven by utility. If speaking your language gives them access again, they'll do it. If tears work, they'll cry. If introspection impresses you, they'll simulate it. Not because They want to confuse the part of you that still hopes, that still wants to believe the story wasn't a lie. That part is the most vulnerable, and they know it. It's here that your own psychological development must hold firm.
Okay,
Because
let's
the
do it.
narcissist is, in a very real sense, a reflection of what happens when the ego becomes tyrannical. When the self is so fragile that it must wear 100
Get her
masks just to
started.
survive any hint of rejection. What they fear most isn't your anger, it's your indifference. Your detachment represents something they cannot bear, the reality that they are no longer the center of your emotional universe. But when they start speaking your language, when they quote the very principles that empower you to walk away, you must resist the urge to soften, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity.
Yeah, I don't know about this. I think this is gonna cause more problems
by
than
action,
good.
by a sustained willingness to sit in discomfort without making it someone else's fault. And if you watch carefully, you'll notice
No.
that the narcissist's
No.
growth
No.
unravels the moment you stop responding. Their insight is conditional. Their self-awareness
No,
evaporates
you're not
the
gonna
instant
trash
it
it for
fails to
me.
achieve the
Sorry.
result they want. True
Bye-bye.
growth is never performative.
Alright, let's go
It
back
isn't loud,
and
it isn't rehearsed. It doesn't demand
do it on
attention
my own.
or
Do it
praise.
manually.
It is often quiet, painful, humbling. It's something a narcissist will rarely engage in.
I actually enjoy it
Because
better when I
real
do it on
growth
my own
means
anyway.
dismantling the very defenses they've relied on to
I
survive.
gotta watch these rocks over here.
Right now at the Home Depot, shop 4th of July savings on GE Profile appliances. Sink outside, dual dispense inside, and all in one laundry that can wash and dry in one machine. Get free delivery now at the Home Depot. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is. That's there. I was gonna say
Are you serious?
So yes, when the narcissist begins to speak your language, it's a sign, but not a sign you may think. It's
Not a good
evidence of
sign.
transformation. It's a signal that they've recognized your power and they want it back. But they don't want to earn it. They want to borrow your
Whoa,
vocabulary
whoa, 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 whoa,
so
whoa.
that will trick your intuition. That you'll mistake mimicry for meaning. There's a strange paradox in the way narcissists react to losing control. It's not quiet, it's not graceful, it's not the slow unfolding of grief that you might expect from someone processing the loss of a meaningful connection. No, when the narcissist realizes you've won, they fully register that the manipulation no longer works. What usually follows is chaos, but not chaos born of confusion. It's chaos by design. It's weaponized, calculated, desperate.
No.
And that desperation reveals everything. You have to understand, in the narcissist's internal world, control is survival. Their identity isn't grounded in a stable sense of self. It's constructed moment by moment through how others respond to them. If they can make you angry, they matter. If they can make you jealous, they're still in your head. If they can make you feel guilt, shame, longing, anything at all, they still have power. So when that power is cut off, when your silence is calm, your detachment unwavering, they're not just confused, they're destabilized. The structure collapses, and in response, they lash out in every direction, trying to provoke something that reminds them they still exist in your psychological landscape. This is where you start to see emotional
Should I go back and do it again, or does it matter? I don't think it matters because it's auto. So let's just move this out of the way.
Next, they're blaming you for everything, accusing you of being cold, heartless, disloyal. The unpredictability is not random, it's strategic. Narcissists rely on confusion to disarm clarity. If they can destabilize your nervous system, they can reopen the door they felt you slammed shut. The challenge for many people at this point is that the chaos looks like vulnerability. Rage seems like heartbreak. Panic seems like love. And if you still carry any emotional residue, any guilt, hope, trauma bonding, it's incredibly easy to misinterpret their volatility as proof that they really care. But this is where discernment becomes essential. Because intensity is not intimacy. Rage is not remorse. Panic is not accountability. What you're witnessing is
Oh
losing
no.
you. It's the horror of
Look
losing
at that
access to their
crap.
supply. Now you may wonder why the escalation, why not just move on? And the answer lies in the narcissist's dependency on emotional dominance. They are addicted to control.
I did not even notice
Same way
that.
some people are addicted to substances.
That has to be
Because
fixed.
control gives
No
them
other way
a
around it.
relief from the chaos within. And when you take that away, they experience the existential. And that's why the chaos feels urgent to them, because it is. If they can't dominate you, they have to find some way to reassert themselves in your world, even if that means setting fire to the relationship entirely. This is often the moment where smear campaigns begin. They may reach out to mutual friends, frame themselves as the victim, twist the story until it no longer resembles reality. Not because they believe the lie, but because the narrative gives them a sense of control. It allows them to avoid the unbearable alternative that someone saw them clearly and walked away anyway. That they were exposed and nothing they tried could fix it. And it's not just a loss of relationship for them. It's a crack in their entire psychological framework. So the escalation is their attempt to plaster over that crack, to make noise loud enough to drown out the quiet truth that they no longer matter to you. It's psychological self-preservation masquerading as heartbreak. Now, the temptation in these moments is to respond, to defend yourself, to argue the facts, to show them and everyone else what really happened. But remember, that's exactly what they want, because even a negative emotional response still tethers you to them. It confirms that you're still in the game, still playing, still reachable. But your real victory isn't found in the argument. It's in the absence of a reaction, in the ability to hold your ground while the storm passes, in recognizing that the escalation is not evidence of love. It's the final gasp of a system that no longer has fuel. And so, when the narcissist begins to unravel, when the rage
Alright,
surfaces,
let's roll it now.
when the threats and sob stories and confusion set in, don't mistake it for depth. Don't give it meaning it doesn't deserve. Understand it for what it is. A desperate attempt to make you feel small again so they can feel large. When the narcissist realizes that you've won, meaning you've exited their psychological control structure and they can no longer influence you emotionally, they often undergo a shift that's as theatrical as it is deceptive. They become the victim.
Where will you go in the V6-powered Nissan Frontier? Join Planet Fitness today for whatever you're getting strong on. Deal ends July 9th.
Now, this is not a real, grounded confrontation with suffering. This is not the humility of someone genuinely wounded by loss or regret. This is a strategic inversion of the narrative. A psychological sleight of
Cool,
hand.
it's done.
They recast themselves as the one who was harmed. You've escaped the role they assigned you, so now they must assign themselves a new one. Innocent, wounded, misunderstood, and most importantly, morally superior. This is a deeply manipulative move, and it works because it exploits one of the most powerful forces in human psychology, the need for coherence. People want stories that make sense. If someone is suffering, we want to understand why. And the narcissist, always adept at reading their audience, capitalizes on this. They construct a new story, one in which they tried their best, one in which you were too cold, too ungrateful, too broken to receive their love. Maybe they even claim they were the real victim of emotional abuse. And here's the unsettling part. They believe it. Not as a conscious lie necessarily, but as a narrative necessity. Because if they don't recast themselves as the injured party, they would have to face the truth that they were controlling, destructive, maybe even cruel. And the narcissistic psyche, which is fundamentally built on denial and projection, cannot tolerate that level of self-awareness. It would be annihilating. So instead, they project their shame outward. You become the container for what they cannot face in themselves. This is classic psychological projection. Rather than metabolize guilt or accountability, the narcissist displaces it. And they do this not just for internal relief, but to weaponize public perception. They tell half-truths to friends. They leak selective information. They may even
get
come
over
across
here.
as broken-hearted or spiritually in ways that make others question your role. They just didn't understand me, they'll say. I gave everything I had. They want sympathy, and often they get it. Because most people aren't trained to recognize manipulation cloaked in vulnerability. They hear emotion and assume authenticity. But in narcissistic dynamics, emotion is often a tool, not a truth. The narcissist doesn't feel remorse the way you think they do. They feel rage at losing control. They feel humiliation when you no longer validate them.
It's so
And
high.
they translate that internal
Well, that's not
They're
gonna
the
work.
protagonist of suffering, someone whose only crime was
Gonna
loving
have to
too
back
much.
him up.
And now you, having fought for clarity and reclaimed your sense of self, may find yourself doubting everything. If you still have a high level of empathy, and most survivors do, you might begin to question whether you overreacted, whether you were too rigid, whether maybe, just maybe, you became the problem. This self-doubt is exactly what the narcissist is counting on, because the moment you start questioning your truth, you become susceptible
I don't think that's gonna
you
work.
become vulnerable to the very cycle you work so hard to escape. But the truth is, their victimhood is not an awakening, it's an adaptation. It's a last-ditch effort to stay central in the emotional narrative. And it's no less controlling than the overt tactics they used before. In fact, it's often more effective, because it's subtle. It looks like grief, it sounds like regret, but beneath the surface, it's still about them. Still about control, still about avoiding the unbearable truth that they were seen, fully, and rejected, not out of malice, but out of clarity. This is what makes the narcissist's victim narrative so psychologically potent. It turns your growth into aggression. Your boundary becomes betrayal. Your silence becomes cruelty. They take your self-protection and reinterpret it as a moral failing. And the more stable and at peace you are, the more threatened they feel. Because your composure exposes their chaos. Your maturity reveals their manipulation. And their only defense at that point is to paint you as the villain. So when you see this shift, when the person who once dominated every conversation now plays the misunderstood martyr, don't be confused. This isn't transformation. It's narrative survival. They haven't accepted defeat. They've rewritten the story so they never had to lose.
Until now, Game Changer. They have a wire trimming head that's universal. It's going to fit any weed eater. They have different size leads on it. They have a 3 and a 6. I went with the 6 because I'm never changing weed eater strings again. These are absolutely awesome. I don't know what took them so long to come up with these things. You're never going to have to change them.
You know, it's a strange thing when people begin to reclaim their strength. Especially those who have suffered quietly for years under the psychological shadow of a narcissist. Because the narcissist, they're not just manipulative, they're terrified of losing control. And when they see you waking up, when they notice that glint of self-respect returning to your eyes, they don't applaud your growth. No, they panic, they plot, because your strength to them is a threat to their illusion. And so there's always one last dirty trick, that final desperate play they keep hidden up their sleeve. The narcissist's fear of losing control intensifies when they sense your psychological independence. This is not a fear rooted in logic, but in a deep existential anxiety that sits at the core of their personality. You must understand that control for the narcissist is not just a tactic. It's their identity. It's the air they breathe. The moment they lose control over someone they've successfully manipulated for a long time, it feels to them like a kind of death. They can't tolerate it. Not because they care about you, but because your freedom means their illusion is collapsing. And the illusion is everything. You were never just a person to them. You were an extension of their ego, a character in the story they wrote about themselves, a role carefully crafted that served their sense of superiority. When you stop playing that role, when you start thinking independently, questioning patterns, setting boundaries, you're not just changing behavior. You're challenging the very framework they've built to avoid their own shame. It begins subtly, often without any outward confrontation. You might start making different decisions. You take longer to respond to manipulative texts. You stop explaining yourself. You stop apologizing for things that aren't your fault. You begin to prioritize your values. You speak with more clarity. You notice how often they interrupt, how often they dismiss your point of view, how rarely they actually listen. You begin to pull back from the emotional
That's weird.
game. You no longer
The
feel
lights
need
are
to
not there.
justify your worth. This is psychological independence. narcissist is
Oh,
more
there it
dangerous
is.
than rage or defiance, because defiance can still be about them, but indifference is fatal to the narcissist's illusion. When they realize they can no longer evoke emotion in you, that their praise doesn't lift you and their criticism doesn't crush you, the foundation begins to crack. At first, they may try to reassert control subtly. Flattery, nostalgia, reminders of better times. They may mirror your interests, suddenly become agreeable, supportive, even kind. But it's a test, a trap. Because they're not seeking reconnection. They're gauging how much power they still hold. And when those tricks stop working, when you don't take the bait, the anxiety begins to rise inside them. They don't show it in the way you might expect. It doesn't come out as fear. It comes out as anger, blame, confusion, projection. They accuse you of changing. They suggest you're being manipulated by someone else. They start rewriting history, painting themselves
Oh,
as
we're almost there.
misunderstood, casting doubt on your memories. It's a defense mechanism, a desperate effort to maintain control
Nice.
over the narrative. Because once they lose control over the story, they lose their grip on reality. That's the tragedy of the narcissist. They are so committed to the mask that they've forgotten
Listen to
there's
that
a real
again.
person, painting themselves as misunderstood, as anger, blame, confusion, projection. They accuse you of changing. They suggest you're being manipulated by someone else. They start rewriting history, painting themselves as misunderstood, casting doubt on your memories. It's a defense mechanism, a desperate effort to maintain control over the narrative. Because once they lose control over the story, they lose their grip on reality. That's the tragedy of the narcissist. They are so committed to the mask that they've forgotten there's a real person underneath it. But that person, the real self, is buried under layers of fear, shame, envy, and insecurity. Your independence reminds them of everything they're not. It reflects their emptiness. And instead of learning, instead of growing, instead of facing their pain, they lash out. They sabotage. They play victim. They punish. They invent new ways to hook you emotionally, not because you've hurt them, but because your strength threatens their entire psychological structure. They need you to need them. The more autonomous you become, the more irrelevant they feel. This irrelevance is unbearable. They begin to imagine scenarios where they're left behind, discarded, exposed. Not for something they've done, but for what they've always feared. That they are not enough. That deep down terror fuels their need to pull you back in. But you're not playing the game anymore. You've started to see clearly. You've started to connect dots that once confused you. Their insults don't sting like they used to. Their praise doesn't hypnotize you anymore. You've begun to define your identity apart from them. You've recognized the manipulation, the cycles, the guilt tripping, the gaslighting, and you're not responding the way they expect. That's the real threat. Not your anger, not your rebellion, but your stability, your calm, your sense of self. They don't know what to do with that. Because a calm, self-possessed, psychologically independent person is immune to the narcissist's central weapon, emotional chaos. And when that weapon fails, their fear reaches its peak. Not just fear of losing you, but fear of being seen without the mask. Fear of having no one left to control, no stage left to perform on, no audience left to believe the script. That's the moment they realize their grip is slipping. And the tighter they try to hold on, the
Let's see if
faster
this
it
will work.
disappears. Because you're no longer that version of yourself who needed their validation, who craved their approval, who was afraid of being alone. You're something they never expected. Someone whole, someone awake, someone strong. Without them, their final manipulation often disguises itself as concern, guilt, or sudden vulnerability. This is one of the most cunning psychological maneuvers in the
Oh
narcissist
no,
are
he's gonna hit the
it
tractor.
rarely looks like aggression.
Oh, he didn't.
It doesn't come dressed in rage or blame. It comes softly. It comes wrapped in tears. It comes
Okay,
pretending
hopefully
to care.
the AI is gonna get him right
Because
back
at
in the
this
middle
point,
again.
they know that direct control no longer works on you. They've tried to provoke you, shame you, scare you into submission, and it hasn't worked. So now they revert to the last mask they think you might still respond to. The mask of the victim, the fragile soul, the wounded child. They hope that by appearing broken, you will put your strength down just long enough for them to slip back into power. They will say things that sound deeply emotional, sometimes even insightful. And so, they think that they have fixed you. They have saved you. They've put you in this box. They've felt your pain. They fixed you. They hurt you. They have saved you. They have caused you to bear it all. And they have deceived you that they can command people. Mostly, they've said it in movies before. To fix you. I know I've made mistakes. I just want us to be okay again. You've changed so much, I hardly recognize you. They may speak of childhood trauma, parental neglect.
No, we're not. We're going right back up where we belong.
It's disarming.
No,
Because you've
I'm
wanted
not
this.
doing this.
You've waited for this version of them. The self-awareness, open-hearted version. The one that feels real. The one that finally admits fault. But this isn't healing. This isn't truth. This is strategy. And it's not about closure. It's about re-entry. It's about making you hesitate, making you question your clarity, making you soften at the exact moment you were about to walk away. They're not inviting you into intimacy. They're inviting you back into the illusion, the emotional fog, where your instincts get blurred and your boundaries lose shape. Because guilt and empathy are tools they've learned to use masterfully. And they know that if they can make you feel like the strong one and themselves the helpless one, they can flip the dynamic all over again. You go from victim to caretaker, from survivor to rescuer. And in that role reversal, they regain power. They're testing you, watching your eyes, reading your silence, trying to detect whether your heart still holds space for their chaos. And so, we wanted to talk about this together, and there's still time. There's still time. There's still time to regain your power. There's still time to regain your power. And if it does, even a little, they will find a way to exploit it. They'll admit to everything except the things that really matter. They'll cry, but never change. They'll confess selectively, just enough to convince you they're being authentic, while still protecting the core of their deception. It's a form of psychological theater.
There's a gas station here.
Because real vulnerability,
It's cool.
real remorse, real growth, those things require consistency, accountability, time. The narcissist is not interested in any of that. They're interested in results. They're interested in getting you back into a position where they can manipulate, disarm, and confuse you again. And the most dangerous part is how convincing it can feel. You might find yourself second-guessing your memory, wondering if maybe you were too harsh, maybe you misunderstood, maybe this time things could be different. That flicker of doubt is all they need, because narcissists don't need full trust. They just need access. They just need a crack in your armor.
Sounds like a virus.
Of emotional attachment, a trace of guilt, a moment of hesitation, That's how they slip back in. And once they're in, the cycle starts again. The gaslighting, the devaluation, the power plays. But this time it feels worse. Because now you knew better, now you saw through it, now you recognize the pattern, and still got pulled back in. That's what makes their final trick so sinister. It's not just about what they do, it's about how it makes you feel about yourself afterward. They manipulate your clarity, they hijack your healing. And the truth is, they don't always do this consciously. Many narcissists truly believe their own narratives. They think they're the ones being abandoned, betrayed, unfairly treated. They believe their emotional displays are real because in that moment they are. But they are also shallow, short-lived, unstable. These moments don't lead to lasting change because they're not rooted in true introspection. They're triggered by the fear of losing control. And the moment that fear passes, the mask drops again, and the old behaviors return. That's why so many people feel whiplash after these kinds of interactions. One minute it's tears and apologies, the next it's cold detachment, blame, or even punishment for not accepting their performance as truth. The inconsistency isn't a flaw, it's the mechanism. It keeps you guessing. It keeps you engaged. It keeps you distracted from your own power. When you start to see this pattern clearly, when you recognize that what appears to be vulnerability is actually manipulation, something inside you shifts. You stop reacting. You stop explaining. You stop holding on to the hope that the narcissist will one day become the person they pretend to be. And that's what they fear most. Not being left, not being hated, but being seen, being understood. Because once you understand the pattern, it loses its grip. Once you name the trick, it stops working. And once you no longer feel guilty for walking away from what harms you, you begin to reclaim the strength they worked so hard to keep from you. They weaponize your empathy in a last-ditch effort to regain emotional dominance. The narcissist studies you closely over time, not to understand you in a loving way, but to identify what moves you, what makes you feel responsible for others. They know you're someone who listens deeply, someone who wants to heal, someone who believes in the good in others, even when it's buried beneath layers of damage, and they use that against you. Especially when they sense you growing stronger, especially when they realize their control is slipping. When anger and manipulation no longer work, when gaslighting no longer confuses you, when distance no longer frightens you, they pull the empathy card. They play on your conscience. They turn your compassion into a leash. They might suddenly open up about past traumas, feign helplessness, or portray themselves as broken in ways that only you seem to understand. They may frame themselves as someone who is constantly misunderstood, someone who's been abandoned by everyone else, someone who's flawed but trying. They will say things like, "No one sees the good in me like you do," or "You're the only one who ever truly cared." And those words hit you deep because you're wired to help, not harm. You're wired to stand beside the wounded, not walk away from them. Yeah. But that wiring is exactly what they exploit. They don't see your empathy as a beautiful strength. They see it as a door they can keep prying open, a soft spot they can target every time you start pulling away. You'll start to notice it in moments where you should feel angry or resolute. Instead, you feel guilty. You question yourself. You wonder if you're being heartless. You start thinking about what they've been through how much they've suffered, how lonely they must feel. And just like that, your focus shifts. Instead of protecting your well-being, you're now managing their emotions. Instead of enforcing your boundaries, you're soothing their wounds. This is not compassion. This is manipulation through compassion. The narcissist doesn't want your empathy for connection. They want it for control. Because as long as you're focused on fixing them, you're not focused on freeing yourself. This tactic is especially powerful because it doesn't look like abuse. It looks like intimacy. It feels like closeness. It masquerades as vulnerability, but it's a performance designed to keep you emotionally tethered. It's not about healing the relationship. It's about postponing your awakening. Because if they can make you feel like they need you, you're less likely to walk away. If they can convince you that your love is the only thing standing between them and collapse, you'll sacrifice your peace to hold the relationship together. That's the unspoken agreement they want you to accept. Your healing must wait, so theirs can happen first. But what they're asking of you is not love. It's servitude. They want you to bear the emotional weight of their dysfunction without any accountability or change on their part. They want you to feel obligated, even heroic, for staying in a situation that drains you. As if it's decent underdog defending your city. That's the only service you... And because empaths often derive identity from helping others, the narcissist knows exactly how to blur the line between love and self-abandonment. They'll reward your sacrifices just enough to keep you hopeful. They'll promise just enough to keep you committed. But over time, the pattern becomes clear. They only reach for empathy when control is at risk. They only show wounds when power is slipping. They only show wounds when power is slipping. They only apologize when they feel you pulling too far away. What makes this so painful is that you want to believe it's real. You want to believe the tears are genuine. The hurt is honest. The need for your care is sincere. You want to believe that your love has the power to transform them. And that belief, that beautiful human hope, is what they count on. But change never follows. Growth never emerges. The cycle just resets. And you find yourself emotionally exhausted, drained from pouring into someone who never intended to be filled. This is what it means to have your empathy weaponized. It's not just about being manipulated. It's about being slowly disconnected from your own inner compass. Being made to feel guilty for choosing yourself. But there comes a moment where the fog lifts. A moment where you realize that love without reciprocity is not love. It's bondage. That staying out of guilt is not loyalty, it's self-betrayal. That empathy is sacred, and giving it to someone who uses it as leverage is not compassion, it's surrendering your power. And in that moment, everything shifts. You stop defending their wounds at the expense of your own. You stop interpreting their neediness as proof of love. You start to see that real connection doesn't require you to bleed to prove your worth. And once you see that, you can no longer unsee it. The spell breaks. The weapon loses its edge. And your empathy, no longer a weakness, becomes the source of your liberation. When charm doesn't work, they shift to smear campaigns to isolate you socially. This is one of the most calculated moves a narcissist makes when they realize their influence over you is fading. Because charm was their first weapon, a mask they wore to seduce, to flatter, to pull you into their orbit. But once you began to see through that charm, once your boundaries started to tighten, they understood they had to change tactics. And so they do what narcissists often do when they feel exposed. They go to war with your reputation. Not publicly, but with whispers, subtle suggestions, with selective storytelling. They begin by seeding doubt in the minds of mutual friends, family members, co-workers, anyone whose opinion might matter to you. They position themselves as the concerned party, the one who tried everything, the one who is now confused and hurt by your change. They say things like, I don't know what happened. They've just become so distant lately, or I think they're going through something. I've tried to be there, but it's like they don't want help. These statements sound caring on the surface, but underneath, they are designed to frame you as unstable, ungrateful, or emotionally erratic. It's the perfect trap, because it makes the narcissist look like the victim, while you begin to appear like the aggressor, all without them saying anything explicitly damaging. Over time, the narrative gets darker. They may begin to suggest that you're emotionally abusive, selfish, disloyal, or mentally unwell. And they're careful with the delivery. They won't say it outright unless they know they're in a safe space to do so. Instead, they imply, they plant ideas. They let others draw their own conclusions, believing them to be independent thoughts. This manipulation of perception is deeply intentional. The narcissist knows that human beings rely on social proof. If enough people begin to believe you are the problem, you might begin to question yourself. That self-doubt is precisely what they want. Because if you start isolating yourself, if you withdraw from others out of shame or exhaustion, they regain control. The smear campaign isn't just about punishing you. It's about controlling the story. Narcissists are obsessed with image, with perception, with being seen as righteous or admirable. When you leave them, when you challenge them, when you stop playing the role they assigned you, they don't just feel rejected, they feel threatened. And in their mind, if people believe you, they lose everything. So they preemptively strike. They rewrite the narrative so that when you speak your truth, others have already been primed to doubt you. They want your words to fall on ears that have been conditioned to disbelieve them. And often, it works. Because narcissists can be incredibly charismatic. They can seem kind, generous, even wise, especially when they have something to prove. If you try to defend yourself directly, you risk looking reactive, bitter, or defensive. That's part of the trap. They want you to lose your composure. They want you to respond emotionally, so they can point to your reaction as evidence of your instability. It becomes a no-win scenario, where silence feels like surrender, but speaking up feels like proof of guilt. That psychological bind is one of the most devastating parts of the narcissist's final trick. They've already taken your peace. Now they try to take your credibility, and they do it without remorse. Because to them, it's not cruelty, it's survival. In their mind, if the world sees you as the villain, then they are safe from being exposed. This is why it's critical to understand that smear campaigns are not about truth, they are about control. They are about influence, about silencing your story before it can be heard. And when you realize this, your strategy must shift. You stop trying to convince people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop giving energy to defending your name to those who've already bought into the narcissist's lie. Instead, you center yourself. You protect your peace. You align with people who see your heart, who've witnessed your journey, who know your integrity not by what others say, but by how you live. Because your truth doesn't need to be loud to be real. It just needs to be lived consistently. And in time, the narcissist's mask begins to crack. The lies become harder to maintain. Inconsistencies show. The people who once believed them start to notice the gaps, because manipulation is exhausting. And the narcissist reveals itself, not because you forced it, but because it was always stronger than the lie. Until then, your job is not to chase validation. Your job is to stay grounded, to stay clear, to keep walking your path with integrity. The smear campaign may be loud, but your healing is louder where it matters most. The narcissist's final tactic is often projection, accusing you of the very strength they fear. This defense mechanism allows them to avoid taking accountability by assigning their own inner chaos, shame, and insecurity to someone else. When they sense your growth, your boundaries, your rising sense of self-worth, they experience it not as a neutral change in you, but as a threat to their control. And instead of facing their discomfort or reflecting on their own behavior, they choose the easier path. They blame you. They accuse you of being controlling, manipulative, selfish, or emotionally abusive, the very things they have been doing all along. This is not just a form of gaslighting. It's a form of psychological warfare, intended to make you question your own evolution and destabilize your clarity. Projection is insidious because it's not always obvious. It doesn't begin with wild accusations or explosive rants. It begins quietly with subtle insinuations, small distortions of truth, small moments of reversal where you suddenly find yourself on the defensive, confused as to how the conversation turned. You might try to explain your point calmly, only to be told you're being aggressive. You set a healthy boundary and are told you're being cold or punishing. You assert your needs and are accused of being selfish. This tactic makes you begin to second-guess your own intentions. You wonder if maybe you are overreacting, if maybe you are the one creating distance, if maybe they are right about you. That confusion is exactly what the narcissist is counting on, because the more disoriented you are about who you are and what you stand for, the easier you are to control. They thrive in that gray area where they keep you tangled between self-doubt and self-defense. And the more you try to explain or justify yourself, the deeper you get pulled into their narrative. You find yourself fighting not just for the relationship, but for your own identity inside it. That's the power of projection. It erodes your sense of reality and replaces it with a distorted mirror, one in which your strengths are framed as flaws and your clarity is labeled cruelty. And the most ironic part is that what they accuse you of is often a direct reflection of what they fear being exposed for themselves. When they accuse you of lying, it's usually because they're hiding something. When they say you're being manipulative, it's because they're losing control over you. When they claim you've changed, it's because you're no longer tolerating the behavior you once did. Their accusations are rarely based on observation. They're based on fear. Fear that you've woken up. Fear that you're no longer susceptible to their guilt traps. Fear that you might expose them, or worse, walk away without looking back. To the narcissist, losing control over someone they once dominated is a kind of psychological injury they don't know how to process. And so, instead of acknowledging their own fragility, they externalize it. They lash out. They say things that are meant to hurt, not because they believe them, but because they're desperate to regain power. If they can make you feel small, ashamed, or confused, they feel safer. It's not about truth. It's about leverage. It's about keeping you in a position where your energy is directed toward proving you're not the villain, instead of realizing that you're not the victim anymore. Projection also serves another purpose. It creates plausible deniability. One, then any boundary you set, any distance you create, any truth you speak becomes suspect. It gives them cover. It paints your actions in a negative light and allows them to continue manipulating others without accountability. And this is where the tactic becomes social as well as personal. It's not just about controlling you, it's about controlling the story around you. And this is where you point out, and then mostly you point out it's a safe incentive to keep the guy social. It's a safe incentive to keep the guy social. And so you point out the story of what's happened in the past, because if they can shape the perception of others, they can isolate you further, cut off your support, and increase your dependence on them. But over time, if you remain grounded in your truth, the cracks begin to show. People notice inconsistencies. They observe how your behavior and your words align, while the narcissists do not. They begin to see that the accusations don't match the evidence. And most importantly, you begin to stop responding to projections. Because you begin to see that the accusations don't match the evidence. And most importantly, you begin to stop responding to the projections. And most importantly, you begin to stop responding.
Yeah, this is definitely AI that's made this thing.
They stop.
It has some
They
bugs.
stop. You begin to realize that someone else's distorted view of you doesn't have to become your identity. You no longer scramble to correct the narrative. You don't chase their approval. You don't need to win an argument that was never about truth in the first place. The strength they accuse you of is real. The independence they fear is real. The change they despise is real. And the more you grow into it, the less their projections stick. They become desperate echoes thrown at you in the hope that one might land. But none will, because you're no longer absorbing blame that doesn't belong to you. You're no longer shrinking yourself to make them feel more comfortable. You're no longer allowing fear of misconception to pull you back into roles you've outgrown. And as their accusations grow louder, your silence grows stronger. Not the silence of submission, but the silence of someone who sees clearly and no longer needs to explain who they are to someone who never truly saw them to begin with. And this is the binding, restrictive, you morally know, and only then do you see what's really happening. You see that social order morphs into, it seems, less and less of comprehension, of guilt, of self-imposture, of self-esteem, and that nobody is really as they attempt to rewrite the narrative, casting themselves as the victim to regain sympathy. This is one of the most deceptive tactics a narcissist uses when they sense their control slipping, when your strength begins to interrupt the old
Well, they seem to get through it
contract,
okay, that's good.
when your truth becomes too powerful to ignore. Rather than admit fault or confront the reality of what they've done, the narcissist retreats into a fantasy where they are not the perpetrator, but the wounded, the betrayed, the misunderstood. This tactic allows them to shift the focus away from your awakening and redirect it toward their version of the story, where they suffer, where they are the ones being unfairly treated, where your strength is portrayed not as healing, but as cruelty. They do this because victimhood is an effective shield. It disarms others, it confuses the narrative, it turns truth into a matter of perspective rather than evidence, And most importantly, it buys them time. Time to rebuild support, time to manipulate perception, time to figure out how to pull you back in or punish you for stepping away. They may begin by sharing half-truths with mutual acquaintances, recounting events with just enough detail to sound credible, but reshaped.
Okay, I need to check something. Okay, so on the other side of the river, there is a steel mill waiting for minor maintenance. We've made a deal with the repair shop since they have an order that needs to be delivered. They'll give you a truly all-terrain Scout loaded with spare parts and electronics. Let's kill two birds with one stone. Find a path and deliver the vehicle to the mill. After that, map out a clear route for the convoy with new transformers and they'll start rolling. Tricky part is the task is finding a way across the river. The sandstorm messed this place up real bad. If you're feeling up to it, you could try to fix a couple broken bridges or lay down some asphalt to restore old roads, but it'll cost you. Okay, I think we're about ready to do that now. Where do we want to go? Well, I've got two ways I can do this now. No, I don't. I got one way. So we'll just go straight up, I guess. It's a lot of sand there. Either way I go, it's going to be a lot of sand. A lot of sand. I could make a road right here, I suppose. It's going to take a little bit to do it, but I could do it. Because this is going to be just crazy through here. Still Beams facility. Yeah, the best way I think is going all the way over here. That'll be the best way. I have a lot less work to do. Okay, let's start plotting. Oh, okay. Now this one I think is still going, so I need to check it. Yeah, that's still going. Repair shop, is that it? I think that's it. Is this still going? Let's see. Should be. I don't see it anywhere. No, it's kind of dead right now. You know what? Let's do some electricity. I want to do some electricity. Been a while since we've done that. Let's cancel the route. Start again. Yeah. How the heck did that happen? Yeah, we're going to have to change that. Let's do it more like something like that. Let's try it. Let's see how that goes. That seems to work. We'll leave that then. Wow, that's close. Let's get rid of you and put you. Right there instead. Get rid of you and put you here. Get rid of you and put you here. No. How about right there? Maybe that, and then move you closer over there. And move you kind of like that, maybe. Let's see how it does. Okay, that is what it is. We'll just let it be. Let's see. Let's do the next one. No, that isn't it. Where's the old one? Bring help to isolated households? Oh, okay. Tifl Town has just received a help signal from isolated households. The locals have prepared the truck with supplies. Bring it over there to ensure they are not left in the lurch. It's one of those pay-it-forward kind of situations. After they receive some basic supplies, you'll be able to count on their help if you ever find yourself, in trouble. Okay. I have a feeling this is going to be a lot of fun. It's not going to be easy in any shape or form. So let's go. No? Alright, let's go. Let's do it. This little van. We'll see how he does. Man, he has no speed at all. I'll tell you that. No speed whatsoever. I'm just going to try to follow the road as far as I can, because I don't think he's going to do well off-road. I just don't see that.
I know it's an official mission and all, but still, you delivering that truck is probably the best part of the job for me. Getting to help out folks who are in a real bind.
No, we're going to do this. Keep going. Come on. Actually, I need to go up here, because that's not going to do over there. I'm going to have to go through these rocks. Or maybe not. Maybe I can go up and then drive down real fast. Maybe that's what I gotta do. What about up here? No. No, you don't like that either. Let's go back to where we came. See if I can find a better way through these rocks. No. Alright, let's go. I wonder if I can kind of cheat it with the step. I could try that. What's up here? Yeah, let's go up there and see what's up there. I mean, no one said I couldn't deliver the vehicle there. Let's see what's up here. Maybe another mission will pop up. That would be nice. Wow, he can't even get up the hill. Wow. Incredible. Maybe go this way? No. This little truck has no power whatsoever, no traction. Let's see if I can do it at an angle, maybe. Try to hit before that bump. Yeah. Come on, you can do it. Come on. Really? Okay, we'll go backwards then. Okay, well, what about this? What about right here? Can we go like this? Yes. Kind of. Have to use gravity to our advantage. Alright, there we go. Let's go check it out. Okay, so nothing here. No mission unlocked. Let's go up here. Okay, so I can see the road up there. It's kind of cool. Okay, just where I want him. So, let's go back to the step. Where am I at? Oh. Okay. Can I just go down there? Let's just go down there. Get away from me, tire. I should have just made a road down to here. That would have made way more sense. Because all my stuff is down here. Alright, there he is. Let's see if I can pull him on the back of this. A little further. What? I can't get anything? Are you serious? You can't be serious. No, I do not want the rock. Maybe that. What is going on here? It's not doing it. Maybe he's just not meant to be hitched. Maybe that's it. To be winched. Yeah, there we go. That's what I want. No. Well, maybe if I can hold him tight on there, that'll do it. Let's see. Unless I can pull him out of there. Let's go forward just a little bit. Can you please let go? Fine. No, really? Are you serious? Great. Get over here. Oh, we're back where we started. Okay. Now. Right about there. If I can pull him up here. Maybe. No, don't go off the end like an idiot. Let's see. Let's see if we can do it now. Stay on the truck, doofus. Let's just get out of here before another truck comes. In fact, he just came back, so that's good. I want to get it on there just a little better than it is. So it might cause a step to flip, and I don't want or need that. Why did we get a tanker truck? I don't remember a tanker truck. Alright, let's get over here and try to tip him. Why do we have an X? There's no reason to have an X. That don't make no sense. Okay, so it's still going. That's good. Maybe that right there. Wait, it's on there. I can see it on there. Alright, well fine. Let's go. Yeah, he's on there. If I just stay on the truck. That's the only thing he has to do is stay on the truck. Not real hard. I have a feeling this is what they're expecting me to do anyway. So we're gonna do it. Let me go that way. Come on, come on, come on. Come on. Oh yeah. Oh, raw power. Don't you dare fall off. Piece of garbage. There it goes. I don't care. You just stay there, I don't care. Get out of the way. Okay, go this way. Stupid rocks. Really getting on my nerves. Get out of here. Waste of time. No. Yeah, get back on there. I think I can do it with them leaving on there. Let's see. Should be able to. Yep. Alright. Cool. And we can see more on the map too. What a mess. What a mess. And I don't see them wanting trucks coming up here, which is good. I don't see that. I don't know what's over there though. Alright, let's try and go over here and see what's over here. Whoa. Okay, well that didn't work out, did it? Ooh, there's roads and stuff all up in there. Huh. Alright, we need to get this done. Infrastructure route. Wait a minute, where's this one? I have a truck on this one? This route's been doing good. Yeah, there's still a truck there, so we're just gonna let it be so I can get the rest of the money for it. There's a few rocks on this trail I need to take care of. All right. So he's got some time. He's still trying to get to that one, so this one should be okay. So we got 2 of them. Yeah, 3 of them. Well, he got some weight on that one up there. For sure. Oh, got some rocks over there. I can see it. Jumping over big rocks. This dump truck should be able to knock him out of the way. Oh, that's gonna be great. That's not gonna help me much. Alright, let's go over here and flip it back over. I'm hoping they made it. Of course, they probably did. Yeah, they did. Good job.
I know you're not exactly holding your breath to hear this, but we have a shiny new transformer sitting at the Steel Beams facility. It's just waiting to be installed at the substation near the collapsed power line. Oh, and while you're at it, bring a container of materials with you. They'll come in handy soon enough. Always do.
What is she talking about? Our delivery convoys held up their end of the bargain. Now you have a shiny new transformer right at the Steel Beams facility. All that's left to do is install it in the right place at the substation near the collapsed power line. And while you're at it, bring a container of materials with you. Okay, so that's basically what she said. Alright, so that's what's going to give me Steel Beams work. Let's see. I gotta move those trucks out of the way. Oh, it failed. Probably because they ran into each other. I would not be surprised. Where is he at? Right there. Oh, he's fine. He's fine. All he has to do is just get out of his mess. He should be okay. I don't know if I want to be able to get him out. Try. He's got that shovel. It's going to be hard to get him out. Okay, let's get rid of him. Alright, and now we'll go ahead and get that job done. But I first want to see what is going on with the route. What is going on with the route? Where are you at? Vehicle stuck. Why? What is all that about? Probably because I made a big hole. Or maybe they ran into each other, I don't know. Let's see. Do we have any trucks that are still running? Let's see. That would probably be... Yeah, that'd be over here. If it was anywhere. Yeah, we do have a truck. He must have hit a truck. It's the only thing I can think of could have done. Is hit a truck. So let's just put him back to work and see what happens. Let him do his little thing, and then we'll go ahead back to this. Is it that one? I don't know. Where'd he go? Where are you going? Let's see which... He'll know by which way it turns. Okay, so this one... What the heck? What is all that mess about? Yeah, he isn't gonna make it. He's hitting the pole for some weird reason. Okay. So we'll put there, I suppose, and then just like kind of go like that. Come on, get on this road. There we go. Just gotta get him back in the thing. Don't really know what all that crap is, but it's gotta go. I don't know why it did that. Why is it doing that? That is not what we want. Oh, it's all messed up now. He's gonna try to go through the trees. What you watch? Because it's all messed up. Yep. There he goes. It'd be funny if he could get through it and just like bulldoze his way through it. He's trying to push through trees right now. I don't think a tanker's gonna get through that mess, though. That does give me an idea, though. Why don't I just do that? I mean, he's knocking him down. Shoot, if it works, it works. Don't think it's gonna work, though. Maybe it will work. Wow, he did it. I can't believe it. Cannot believe it. Are you gonna get to that one? No. Alright, where's something else? I thought I had another vehicle hanging around here. Can he get up the hill, though? That's the thing. Maybe not. Yeah, that's the problem. Come on, knock him down. Wow, no way. And now he's gonna have trouble with this. He's gonna try to have it backtrack for no apparent reason. Wow. What on earth? Yeah, it's all messed up. What if I just deleted all of these? Would that help, maybe? No. Let's try to delete all these. Yeah, he's done. It's not gonna happen. Okay, so am I not able to fix this? I mean, it looks like it can. Looks like it can be fixed. No, see? It screws it up right there. Can I do this? Oh, I can. So I can backtrack like that. Well, that is pretty interesting. How about that? Let's see what that does. Alright, now where are you at? Is there anything going on at all? Probably not. No, of course not. So, we'll start it again. And we'll get some stuff going. Okay, I think it's fixed now. We'll just see if he can get to this, and then if he can, then we know the whole thing's fixed. Okay, cool. All right, let's do it. Get her done. No. Down, down, down. There. That should work. Now, where are we at? Needs. Oh my God. It's gotta go over there. Well, they don't know how to make things easy, do they? Okay, we'll do that. We'll go that way. I think if we keep the crane balanced, I think we should be okay. At least we're gonna try. Are we really stuck on those things? Seriously? We are. Alright, that's fine. We'll just drive on them then. So we're gonna have to go backwards. Mm-mm. What? Are you serious? What? Okay. Well, this one for sure goes over here, not there. So we'll put him over here then. Okay, so what's got to go over there? Oh, that little thing? Okay. That won't be a problem. Wait, can I go up there? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think that's smart at all. There's nothing up there. No, nothing but rollover. That's about it. We'll go back to where it was before. Let me try going this way and then see if I can make a big wide turn. At least I could turn around and go up frontwards. That's the plan. A little long. I'm gonna have to run over these plates to make it over. There's infrastructure routes over here too. Down. See if we can go frontwards frontways this time. Let's try. Stop it. That's kind of weird. It like disappeared when I came over here. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, it means it's done. Okay. I just need to drop it. Alright, that's easy enough. Alright, what next? Clouds per line near steel mill. And I'm pretty sure we just did. Okay, confirm. Alright, so we got steel beams now. Nice. Okay, well, thank you. I'll give us something to use.
Oh, jeez. I think I jinxed it. Long story short, I want you to keep scratching their backs till they can bring production back online. They only need a small favor, you know. Just a container of parts and resources they need to get going. Think you can deliver it? Pretty please?
Well, I gotta find where the concrete things are at. Yeah, I don't think I have the concrete thing open yet. Let's see. I don't remember having it open yet. Oh, it's green. Okay, so it is open. Okay, I just need to bring the concrete there. And it's everywhere. Okay, I got an idea. She only wants 3. So we'll just bring the greenway over there. Oh, I need to check something else too, and to make sure these things are going. It doesn't look like it. Oh, there he is. Okay, so wait a minute. So he's bringing slabs over there. So let's look at it. Before another one comes over here. It's not going to let me when I'm there. Uh-oh. Another one's coming. Where'd he go? The door is open. Yeah, I better get out of the way. Let's get out. The door is open, but I don't see him. Don't see anything out there. Okay, there we go. Let's see if we can get something better. They look like they're all the same, though. No, they're all the same. I don't get a choice. Let's see, what else we got? We got this one. How are you doing? Steel beams. No, I don't see anything there. Oh, there we go. So we're going again. Let's see if they reckon each other. I think they'll be okay. I think they're the same speed, so. Yeah. Yeah, that one's gaining on him. But they're pretty much the same, so. Let's go. Alright, where's the close concrete? That's what I need. I'm getting a lot right there. Well, it's everywhere. The big stuff is right here. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Let's check on the route, make sure something's going on. Gotta keep things going. Okay, that one I'm gonna need to start again. Maybe. Okay, so that's doing good again. How's this one doing? Okay, there he is. So I need at least 3 concrete. So we're just gonna get these stars right here. That'd be the best thing to do. Yeah. You can tell that one's a heavy. Come on, you can't see that? You can't see that. See if we can get a 4th one. I don't know if there's any more stars though. We got all the stars. Just over here. Let's get one of these big heavy pieces here.